Hey, we're live. Tom Cassidy here in the house. It's quite late for me, actually. It's 2 in the morning, and it's quite late for Bryan as well, who's it's 9 p.m. in the evening there, but he usually goes to bed nice and early, don't you, Bryan? So thanks for staying up.
Well, thank you for your time as well. I don't know if I could last 2 in the morning.
Well, because I've given myself all this time to set these projects up, especially the Team 10K project, but then a number of other things that you're aware of as well, I'm sure. I'm not doing really any external consulting, so I've got my own time, which is fantastic. So, for example, this morning I didn't get out of bed till 12. Normally, I get out of bed about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'll sometimes go through to 4 or 5 in the morning, and then sleep really well for about 4 or 5 hours, and then have a little 10-minute nap, 20-minute nap in the afternoon. And it seems to me to be really efficient to do it like that. But anyway, enough of me, Bryan. Tell us about your program. Tell us about reasonable leadership, because it's a dynamite program. I've had a look at it, and I'm going to show people in a minute, and we're going to go through it. But I think it's really solid. You must be quite excited.
I am quite excited because say today I had a marathon session with this company here, large insurance company that's international that I'm working with, and I was sharing with them a little bit about it because I said, most corporations are certainly overmanaged and underled. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't think many of them understand there's a distinct difference between leadership and management.
Yeah.
Both are systems of actions, but reasonable leadership is a different system of actions because if you look at the intersection between strategic leadership and operational leadership, if you look at enabled leadership like the servant leadership and transformational leadership, and then the forceful leadership, reasonable leadership sits at the cornerstone of each intersection there.
Yeah.
And it's about doing
Yeah.
things in a very reasonable way. So if you consider that as a systems of action and you look at the functions and the characteristic activities, you have a unique system for what I call COP, concentration of power. And if you look at examples all around the extremism of leadership,
Yeah.
all the concentration of power is really is narrow and is very concentrated in one direction, which is why it doesn't work. Take for instance charity. As I said, growing up in Africa, they pour billions and billions of dollars into NGOs and to
Yeah.
governments
Yeah.
to stop poverty.
Yeah.
But what it doesn't address is the very fundamental issue of creating prosperity. So the concentration of power is with the government and
Yeah.
not with the people that really need the money. And it doesn't actually reach them in a very unique and in a very efficient way. So because wherever there's concentration of power that's not evenly distributed, you will see extremism, you will see these kinds of imbalances, and so that's why I'm quite excited about reasonable
Mhm.
leadership.
And how was that received? And when you were talking about it, reasonable, the idea of reasoned thinking and reasonable behavior, and that sort of stuff. Did they like where you were going?
They liked it, and it was a stark contrast because one of the comments was everything's about being great. If you can Google how to be a great leader,
Yeah. Yeah.
how to do things great, and so they said, "Wow, it sounds like it's the exact opposite." And I said, "Actually, it's not the exact opposite. It is about doing things in a small way, but it has great results. So you get the same results. You just don't have to be forceful about it." And
Yeah.
that's the unique difference, and that's where the minimum will, effort, and those kinds of things come in. And we started talking about the science of human judgment and decision making. And they said, well, we never thought about it that way because everything's about the big thing and
Yeah.
we leave out the small.
Yeah, I think you're right. In the one of our favorite books, Brian, The Science of Being Great, Wattles talks about, you don't search out for these great things. Be great where you are right now, in the small things. As he said, do small things in a great way. But what people would want to do is that they only want to do great things. They only want to do noble and lofty things. If you can be a truly great partner a great parent, a great colleague, a great, maybe subordinate, a great boss, a great employee, just in order, on the daily basis, then, that's the sort of stuff that will lead to, the bigger things later, and that's what's exciting. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to show people this a screen share. You should be able to see this now. Can you see that?
Not yet. Okay, now I do.
This is your document there, the Reasonable Leadership Wheel. Now, it's not in a wheel form yet. That's my job. I'm going to turn that into a form, to a wheel. It's got 4 domains. I love the H, the fact that you're staying with the alliteration, which is nice. So talk us through then this little bit in a way that, this is no more than a minute really on each one, where you're going to talk about the key, the big idea in each one of these aspects that you've chosen.
This is what I call the H factor. So it's the human factor that's missing from most leadership today. And so it starts with the heart, and the heart is where everything flows out of. So it starts with the awareness. And I said leadership begins with you. So it's really a principle about self-leadership. So it's what you bring to the table, and just being able to honor that and not looking for anything external to yourself. And the idea of personal integrity as the essence of everything successful, that's the foundation. The word integrity actually means, comes from a root word meaning complete or whole. So that word itself means whatever you bring to the table is good enough to start. Motivation now is about the emotional intelligence, which starts with the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. It's all about self-awareness. And the whole idea is to create movement that leads to subsequent movement that continues to build, and that creates momentum. Yeah. And you don't have to wait for anything to happen to do that.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And that becomes the fuel that sparks everything else. So then we move from the heart to the hand, which is literally reflective of what you literally put your hands to do. So now we're talking about actually doing something. So it's that one small step, and it goes back to what we were just talking about previously, about doing small things, but doing so in a very great way. And it's lead in everything you do. Lead at home, lead in your community, lead in whatever communities you're in. Let your leadership, so in other words, be the example in whatever you do. And then frame effective solutions. Instead of looking at problems, which would drain your energy, by the way, frame the solution. That's why I said language is the currency of influence. And create gain opportunities is all about net value. When you look at all things considered, it becomes regenerative, and that's why you always care for people. And so I said create gain opportunities. So then we move from the head.
Hang on a second. On that one, and that's presumably the idea of regenerative value. That's the question that you would ask would be something, okay, yeah, great, I like it, but how is this creating greater life for all, or how is this creating gain opportunities? Yeah, okay, nice. Love it.
And in fact, that's one of the questions I asked today to the group when I was speaking to them today, because I said it's one thing for you to go out and say you want to have an impact and actually believe you are having an impact, but how do you know that?
Yeah.
So how are your processes, your systems, all those kinds of things? How is it creating greater life for all? So basically, what I shared with them about regenerative value is if you're guided by principle and you live up to those principles, you are at least positioned to create greater life for all.
Yeah.
But so in other words, it takes out this idea of self-agenda, which most leadership models are built on.
Yeah.
So then we move to the head.
Yep.
And talk about principle first. So establishes the why you're doing what you're doing. So it creates that purpose to realize the vision.
Yep.
And the value judgment intelligence is the science of it, and that's all about the capacity to make good value judgments.
Yep.
Set the intention is all about integrating from the highest perspective of thought. So you start from that perspective, as I was just talking about. You guide by your principles, but then you let all your thoughts guide from there.
Oh,
Giving Peter blanks.
Yeah, he's trying to join, isn't he? Hang on. Hang on, Peter. I'm going to say no to that because that'll be confusing.
Okay.
Mark and Peter are on. Okay, great. They can do their own one. That was a little bit weird.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on there? But so then we move to the habits, which are the things that you do daily, the things that you do weekly, monthly,
Yeah.
just to make things an ongoing learning process, so that you'll have the traction that you need and the momentum. And deliberate engagement is really about doing things very intentional, but you're looking moment to moment how you're accessing and how you're creating this value. So you're literally asking yourself and being guided by
Yeah, that's
greater
nice.
life for all
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And there's a neuroscience, and we call it deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is not necessarily fun, is not necessarily the most popular thing. So it's not just practice for practice sake. You
Yeah.
literally intentionally are doing things in a specific way. So the next comes discipline, and discipline is all about self-learning.
Mm.
So, it comes from a word meaning disciple or
Yeah.
pupil.
A follower. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so leadership is an unending process. Many people think, this rank, file, title, position about leadership, and so they think that, once I receive my title and the keys to the corner office, I'm done. So leadership is an ongoing process. It doesn't end. And
Yeah.
then finding your balance is really about taking a daily inventory. I call it a daily dashboard of what's most useful.
Mm.
Because you
Mm.
need to get centered. Because here's the key behind this when we're talking about reasonability.
Yeah.
If we're going to build people for an adaptive future, for all the challenges of the future, that requires people be in their best thinking. It
Yeah.
requires that they be able to utilize judgment. So you have to be able to balance. And balance is not, in my mind, it's not about splitting oneself up into all these neat parts to equal the whole. Balance is how you deal with a moment.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
finding your balance is a
Mm.
daily inventory thing. And the bottom line for all of this is it increases effectiveness. And that's why I said thinking and acting
Yeah.
reasonably is a quality that will work in leadership all the time, everywhere.
That's
So
brilliant.
you'll be positioned for effectiveness.
That's really, Brian, this is so well put together. I love it. I mean, it does appeal to my thinking as well because I guess I think a little bit like you, or we think similarly. So I'm going, yeah, this is yeah, brilliant, loving it. But I do think genuinely, my own personal biases aside, I think you've really got something that's really, truly great. I mean, I'm just thinking if we could get people, I'm just to stop the screen share now. If we could get people to just looking at these things, if we could get people to be more aware of how they are, to have greater personal integrity, to actually do stuff right now, to take small steps in a great way, but to always be thinking about solutions, creating gain opportunities, if we could get people to do all these things, I mean, oh my goodness. How amazing would these companies be? How amazing would these organizations be with these this type of leadership in it and these type of leaders? I mean, so anyway, back down to earth for a second. Well, I prefer living, in the future because the future is kind of what we're moving towards, so it's got more power. Where we are now doesn't have power for me. I think what's pulling me forward has got the power. That's why I live there. But let's think now. Week one, by the end of week one, what you've got to do is you've got to do your first Google Hangouts, which we will do. We'll schedule to do another time because what we want your energy to be kind of right up there in the zone. So this is just a technical one, but we'll schedule for some time the rest of the week. We'll bang out. I mean, who knows? We might get through 12 because we could do them really easily, but we'll certainly get through a bunch. You've got the title and the outline of the program. It's all there. Have you got what you think will be your tagline to the course, which is what you think people are going to be searching for, and then they come up with this, which you are solving the hardest problem, which is an effective leadership program. But what do you think people will be searching for? That tagline.
There's several of them. When you're talking about effective leadership that I Googled, there's so many uh, titles there. And one was very simply how to be an effective leader. You can
Yeah.
have that, or the secrets to effective leading.
Yeah.
The title of my keynote today was strategies for success, but the key was about effective leadership because this is a company that's purchased another company, so it's like a merger,
Okay.
and we're actually looking at it from a startup perspective of building these leaders and not managers. They hired on a lot of managers, and so I had to come in and teach them that you really need leaders
Yeah. Yeah.
because the change moving forward as you're combining
Yeah.
your companies and efforts are going to be uniquely different, and you don't want managers who can just manage functions. You need leaders who can see the change
Yeah.
and then chart the course. And so I just called it strategies for success. So I'm thinking how to be an effective leader is quite simple,
Yeah.
and it has a lot of traction in the searches there.
Yeah, so you'd have like reasonable leadership is the title, colon, how to be an effective leader, and then it gives you options for finishing that off as well. How to be an effective leader in in this century or in a changing world, in
Exactly.
an adaptive climate, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's even like turning effective strategy or turning effective leadership into great performance. So there's all different kinds of
Yeah.
ways that you can play with it that I've seen in the search there.
And what we'll do in this next week, I mean, basically, our job, I think you understand it better than most because you're going straight to the companies with sort of a program, really. But in terms of the online component of it, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting as many possible hooks into people searching, and they will watch one or two or three videos each. They won't watch all 30 or 40 that we'll do. They'll watch a few, and then we'll send them to something, and that something will be a way to build up a relationship over a period of time that's really minimum will. So it'll be just like, here you go, here's a sample of my full program, it's free, it'll be delivered to your inbox over the next week. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, just have it anyway. It'll be some wonderful stuff. And then once we've got that relationship going and a few emails later, we'll say, okay, now this is the program. If you want the program, bon, you'll give them a thank you bonus for having gone through the course, 50% off, whatever it is. I mean, I think those things are quite good. Just to tip people into, it's going to run out. It's just as a thank you, thank you for being part of the program. Here you go. Here's a break on the full program, and then the long game. So there's 4 components. The fourth of which is the long game is to get them into your app ecosystem, so you can coach these people. It's not going to be hundreds of millions of people. It's probably not even going to be millions of people that want to be reasonable leaders, but it's probably going to be tens of thousands that you can be coaching in the future, and it might be a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But the point is, if you've got a program that people can then just join that's going to go forever, it doesn't really matter how long it takes, right? If it's going to go, so it's fantastic. So there's 4 steps. This is just kind of getting the interest. Then we're going to develop the relationship. Then we're going to come up with some sort of main offer to get them into the program, and then of course we can go straight to the app from a video. We can go, by the way, download the app, because I think when the app's out, we'll have a free version which has no Bryan magic juju. It just has Bryan's principles that are randomly reminding, which is great. But the $20 a month or $50 a month or whatever that you're going to charge for your program will be for actually getting you. And it won't be just from a phone, because our version will allow it to happen from a computer, which you'll love. So you don't have to be typing away like this, which will be good. Yeah, so that's it. So you've done the hardest things that most people struggle with. I will turn this into a 13x4 with 4 domains. Do you have any preference for colors? We can
No, I don't have any preference. You know, I'm grateful that you're designing it, and I'll just take it as at that.
And we can change whatever, change colors later on. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. But what we want is quite
No
nice.
pizza.
What we want is to have, when we start doing the videos, we want to have as the thumbnail of these videos kind of the wheel, because that will have stickiness. If you've got like, you know, 4 videos on the front page of Google for search and they've all got this same wheel as the thumbnail, it's like, oh, what is this wheel shit thing? What's that all about? You know, and so that'll be quite good. So I'll do that. Um, what you and I also need to do is work out how to record the joint videos, because the Google Hangout technology is good to do like the YouTube type videos, but it's not good enough to do the other videos. But I think I've got a solution. I was wondering if we might trial that now before we knock it on the head. And actually, you've got VC on your iPad, haven't you? VC,
BC?
the VC, the app that we've been using and you've been using with Sam, or your
What
phone.
app is that? I have it, I think on the iPad.
I
You
think you've
mean
got VC. It's a VSEE.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, okay. Now
You're
I see.
thinking of venture
I thought
capital, aren't you?
yeah, exactly.
I realise
I,
that because VC to
I
you
was
can
like,
only mean one thing. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, BC, what is that? Okay, I do have that. In fact, we used it. Or no, 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 we chatted on it before.
Me and you. Yeah. I felt fairly confident that you had it, but I wasn't going to say, look, I've chatted with you. I know you've got it. I want to, give you a chance to discover it. Um, but what we'll do is we'll end this one, and then I will call you on VC because I'm going to then do a screen capture of it, and I think I did some stuff with Sam earlier on today, and it was looking really good because I want you to be able to record some videos of you just on your iPhone just talking and getting high quality you, and it's just you doing a little bit about stuff. But it'd be really nice if we can have a way, in the co-authoring process, because it's so nice to have a conversation about things, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Really.
appreciate that. And one as you were talking about those 4 areas that we'll focus on, because it's kind of the vision that I had was a reasonable leadership network, and it worked well with the VIP. Because when I came to your group, I've always been a part of those mastermind groups, and they seem to work really, really well. They're calling them CEO roundtables, peer-to-peer advisory groups.
Yeah.
They're limited, but the content is so rich in there. You come out, with such rich content, and ready to really take on and shape the world. It's just unfortunate that there's not that many of them that truly focus on this creative plane that we're talking about here. And so that's was another exciting part for me, is this
Yeah.
opportunity to offer that. And that's
We,
what I'm talking to organizations about. Hey, let's develop a reasonable leadership network at your company here, so
yeah.
you can do something disruptive that's going to give you a competitive advantage where you are.
Yeah, that's great. And so what would be really nice is to have a competitive advantage by not being competitive,
Exactly.
by having a creative plain business that ends up being so attractive because it attracts the right people to work for you, and it attracts the right suppliers, and it attracts the right business partners, that it ends up being a competitive advantage. That's
And see, and with going to using this human factor, what you're now doing is you're making it disruptive, because you're changing the dynamics, and you're really focused on humans as a source of innovation, whereas before it was just all about the technology, all just about the systems, and we leave out the human side. And so in this new economy, as I always say, the new currency is all about creating value, and we can't leave out the human factor. And so most corporations, because they're so focused on their systems, they leave out the true essence of human capital as a source, a valuable source of innovation. And I think that's a missed opportunity. So that's why I was focusing on this H factor.
I like it. I like it a lot. What we're going to do now is we're going to see how easily we can do the VC thing. One thing you might want to do is change your iPad angle a little bit, so when I call you on VC, it can't see the fan, because all the fan is doing is, when it spins around, it's silly to say this, but what the fan does is the fan is a moving image in the background. Now, a moving image requires a lot of processing power to record that. It kind of thinks that it's important. Now, you'll notice that if you move around a lot, the video capture system struggles a little bit. So if you keep relatively still, you're allowed to move your mouth and your eyes, and you can smile and move your cheeks. But if you don't have like a fan spinning around in the background, it will mean that the quality of the video will be much better. I'm going to end this call and then ping you a call on VC. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
I'll see you there in a couple of minutes. And for everyone who's watching, sorry about this, but you can't see the VC bit yet. So we're going to talk about the real secret stuff. All right.